On Larry King Now, Malcolm-Jamal Warner.
It's not always about that particular job. It's really an opportunity just to kind of show you. And, you may not get that job, but it may lead to a different job. People versus OJ, I actually read for Chris Darden. As an actor and as a director, I have the same sensibilities, therefore I fight the same integrity battles and politics. The music and the poetry was an avenue of creative expression that I really needed.
Plus, now you deal with another sad situation, Bill Cosby. Has this been difficult for you?
Yeah. Because when you watch someone who you know and love, go through what he's going through, it's difficult not to, not to feel something.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest is Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the Emmy-nominated, Grammy-winning actor, director, musician, and poet. He's known for Malcolm and Eddie, The Cosby Show, and more recently, Suits, Major Crimes, An American Crime Story, and something we appeared in together, The People versus OJ Simpson. I'm the only one in that who played himself. Malcolm stars in 10 Days in the Valley. It premieres October 1st on ABC. The title's intriguing. It's not about a musician, right?
No, not that one.
That's where they live. What is 10 Days in the Valley?
It's I'd say a suspense thriller. Kara Sedgwick plays an executive producer of a cop show, and she gets a lot of her information from a consultant who's giving her very real stories of police corruption, and she is putting those very real stories in this cop show. Her daughter goes missing, her 7-year-old daughter, and she needs the cops to help her find her daughter. So there's a fine line that she has to navigate between getting her art out and getting the help she needs from the cops.
Does she continue to work while the daughter's missing?
If I told you that, I'd be telling you part of the story.
Who do you play?
I'm actually the co-executive producer of the cop show. And, one of the things about really this show, all of the characters are suspect. I mean, really, I know ABC already has a show called Secrets and Lies, but this show, after having watched the 10 episodes, this show could very well be called Secrets and Lies 2, because every character...
You're a suspect?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. Now, if it's a big hit, could it run for 4 years? Could the girl become 11?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where they would go in the second season, but I know they've already thought about it. So I'm sure if we get picked up, they've already got a good head start.
How'd you get the part?
Audition, and it's interesting because I auditioned for another role that obviously went to someone else. And they, based on that work, I got a call back to, to read for this character. And one of the things that I talk about to actors all the time about the audition process is, it's not always about that particular job that you think you're going in to audition for. It's really, it's really an opportunity just to kind of show you. And, you may not get that job, but it may lead to a different job. People versus OJ, I talk about that experience all the time because I actually read for Chris Darden. And it was probably one of the best auditions that I had ever had. Got wonderful feedback from casting, and then months went by and I didn't hear anything because obviously they found someone who was a much better Chris Darden. But I just kind of forgot about it. And then a couple of months later, I got a call from Ryan Murphy's office, and they offered me the part of OJ. And I just always use those two shows as examples about actors tend to get so caught up in the experience of
part of AC.
I want to book this job.
AC Cowling.
Yeah, yeah.
That car drive. How many scenes were there? How did it take long?
It was the Bronco chase we actually shot over the course of a weekend. We actually shut down a part of the 710 freeway.
You got a 3-month-old? 4-month-old?
She's 4 months, yeah.
Does that affect this show? Affect you as a?
I think when we were shooting the show, it did not affect me as much because we were shooting and my daughter hadn't been born yet. But now, having screened the 10 episodes, it definitely strikes me. It hits me a little different. Actually having a living daughter, and just the the bond and the sense of responsibility that you have for this being. And mind you, my daughter's 4 months, so at 7 years old, I'm sure it's a whole nother experience.
Oh, it's got to be the worst experience.
Yeah, yeah. And Kara does a really wonderful job with taking you through the journey of this woman who also has so many secrets and lies, if you will.
Really?
Like as an audience, as a viewer.
A single parent?
Yeah, divorced. But as a viewer, you want to root for her, because you want her to find her daughter. But then there are other times where you struggle to root for her. She does a really wonderful job writing that.
Does Kevin Bacon come to the set?
He's been there a couple of times. Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, yeah.
You direct too, right?
Yes.
Have you directed any of this?
No, I haven't. I haven't directed in the last couple of years. The music and the poetry was, an avenue of creative expression that I really needed. And because as an actor and as a director, I have the same sensibilities, therefore I fight the same integrity battles and politics, I got to a point where I realized that because I was having them in both of my careers, I needed to kind of fall back from the directing so I could express myself in a way that I can't necessarily do as an actor or as a director.
Why is it 10 days in the Valley?
The show takes place over the course of 10 days, so each episode is a day.
So then, it can't run 2 years.
I'm sure they figured out a way. I'm positive they figured out a way.
They don't kill off someone. The girl's found, but the mother goes missing.
Well, right. I'll tell you something that's interesting. By the third, I'd say, early on, it's crazy. You find out this big question, but you're still so engaged with the series that answering this big question early on actually makes you more involved in the rest of the episodes.
Now you're really intriguing me.
Yeah, it's an
the
intriguing
big question
show.
would be, who took her?
Right.
You say, I find that out in the third episode, and it still goes on?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Our guest is Malcolm-Jamal Warner. We'll discuss OJ, Bill Cosby after the break. We'll come back with that and a lot more. Stay with us. We're back with Malcolm-Jamal Warner. 10 Days in the Valley will premiere October 1st on ABC, and he's already made it very intriguing. Did you know A.C. Cowlings?
No, I did not know him. Never got a chance to even talk to him while I was preparing for the role.
Doing that scene in the Bronco, how was it constructed? Was it a difficult shoot? A lot of dialogue.
Yeah, it was difficult in that you've got this intense emotion, this intense emotional scene that we shot over the course of a weekend. We shut down the 710 freeway. Right. So for 2 days, we're in this, this high emotional place in this Bronco. Cuba is Cuba's a funny guy.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're gonna be stuck in the truck with somebody, he's one of the guys you want to be stuck with.
Did very well. You both did very well.
Thank you.
That was a great show.
They did such a wonderful job with that series. And I think it's funny because I, like everyone else, when you first heard that they were doing this People versus OJ, the first reaction is why? And then when you see it all put together, you get the vision.
My director was Hemingway. Your director was Murphy?
Ryan, and I worked with Anthony Hemingway as well.
Did you come away with any new perspective?
Not really. No, I if anything, I came away with, at least what I feel, a deeper understanding of friendship, and AC putting his neck on the line for his best friend.
You also did American Horror Story with Murphy.
Yeah.
What makes Murphy great?
There's a quirkiness to his storytelling style that it's always engaging.
Now you deal with another sad situation, Bill Cosby. How many years were you on that show?
8 years.
How old were you?
13. We started, I was 13.
You said he was a mentor to you. I knew Bill very well, interviewed him many times, spent a lot of time with him. Has this been difficult for you?
Yeah. Because when you watch someone who you know and love, go through what he's going through, it's difficult not to, not to feel something, have some kind of emotional response to, what this person is going through.
Have you spoken to him?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that been like? I mean, have you lost faith in him? Have you lost feelings for him? And
no.
What are your feelings?
No, not at all. Honestly, my biggest feeling is I feel sad for, just the way this whole, just the way the whole story has come about, and when you've done so much wonderful, so many wonderful things for so much of your career, and after having had such a long path and long journey, you have something like this that you've got to contend with.
You forgive if it's true?
We'll never know. I don't think any of us will never know what the truth is, And you're talking about so many different. There's so many different aspects to, there are all these stories from all these different women. Then there's this one particular case that we're talking about. So there's so many moving parts to it.
Is he blind?
Yeah, he's definitely blind, but his spirits are great.
What was he like to work with?
It was pretty incredible.
Because?
He's great with people. He has a wonderful sense of being able to set a tone on the set. So people will come to work on our show and be so surprised about the genuine, sincere liking and respect that we all had for each other amongst the cast and crew. There was always just a really great vibe, and that comes down from the top. And people would always talk about how rare that kind of energy is when you walk on, especially a hit show. You've got all these egos involved. And one thing that I learned from Mr. Cosby is he never came to work. If anyone's career warranted coming to work with a big ego, it would be his. And because he never came to work carrying that ego, one of the things that I learned early on, well, if he's not doing it, then there's no reason for me to come to work acting that way. So he gave me, amongst the millions of things I've learned from him, he gave me a real sense of how to handle celebrityhood and living in the public eye.
What legacy has he left with you? You'll always be Theo Huxtable, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, that show will last forever.
Still shows.
Yeah, and still, that show holds such an importance because it really changed the scope of how Black America and white America and the world, for that matter, saw Black people.
Coming up, we're talking poetry, politics, and the person Malcolm-Jamal would trade places with. We'll be right back. We're back with Malcolm-Jamal Warner. He's one of the stars of 10 Days in the Valley. He's also a suspect in 10 Days in the Valley, premiering October 1st on ABC, and boy, has he set me up to watch this. You were part of a powerful short called You Can't Hear Me. What was that about?
It was, You Can't Hear Me was is a socio-political outcry, in terms of what's happening in the world today. David Bianchi, who was one of the poets and producers of the project, invited me to be a part of it.
You do your own poetry?
Oh yeah.
Have you always written poetry? Were you
Yes.
Kid who wrote verse as a child?
Yes. When I was 6 or 7 years old, this is before I was even acting, I proclaimed to my parents that I was either going to be a famous actor, a famous poet, or a famous basketball player. So I got 2 out of 3.
You like the spoken word of poetry?
Yeah. Yeah, my dad went to Lincoln University with Gil Scott-Heron and Brian Jackson, so I've literally come out of the womb listening to Gil Scott and the Last Poets. So they had a really big influence.
Where'd you grow up?
I was born in Jersey City, spent my pre-Cosby life back and forth from Chicago to LA because my parents were split, and I would go back and forth.
Cosby was shot here, right?
Cosby was shot in New York.
New York?
Yeah, yeah.
In You Can't Hear Me, you say, I still try to find the God in those who choose misogyny and hate as tools to make America great. Are we talking about Mr. Trump?
We're talking about not just Mr. Trump, but I think Mr. Trump's supporters, people who voted for him. I mean, you voted for misogyny and hate. There's no way around it.
Do you have any hope for this administration?
I think I have more hope for what the wake-up call does to our country. I mean, the reality is, you know, the pro-Trump supporters are a voice that had not been heard, and they've now made their voices heard. And that's one of the things we talk about in You Can't Hear Me, you know, the frustration in trying to get your voice heard.
We play a little game of If You Only Knew. You do not have to answer. It is not a courtroom.
Okay.
Who was your childhood celebrity crush?
Janet Jackson.
Secret talent?
I'll pass on that one.
Okay. Person you'd trade places with for a day?
Malcolm X.
Guilty pleasure?
True Blood.
TV show you'd like to be a guest star on?
Ooh, Game of Thrones.
Best compliment you ever got?
That I will be a great father.
Someone you're dying to work with?
Viola Davis.
Weirdest job you ever had?
Bagging groceries.
What store?
It was a liquor grocery store in my neighborhood back in, like, it was like 79.
Were you a good bagger?
I was, actually.
Something you wish you were better at?
Acting.
Strangest fan encounter?
Got my eye scratched at a parade.
Who did it, a woman?
Yeah.
Ran up to you?
Yeah.
She was a fan?
She was, yeah. She was, you know, clawing to get at me. And
Luxury you can't live without?
my bass.
Your bass?
I'm a bass player. So.
Oh, you're that too?
Yeah.
That's a luxury to you to play. Do you play in a group?
I have a jazz funk spoken word band called Miles Long. I've got 3 CDs out.
Really?
Yeah, I play electric and upright bass.
Tell me something people don't know about you. I just learned a lot.
I play electric and upright bass. I have more of a struggle than people realize in owning that I am enough, if that makes sense.
A struggle that you're enough?
Yeah, owning that I am enough. I think, you know, even though I've been acting for more than half of my life, even though I have been able to navigate through the perils of growing up in this industry on what could be seen as a successful path, there's a certain confidence that I exude. But even with all of that, there's still a struggle in owning that, yes, I am enough.
You are a poet. Malcolm-Jamal will answer your social media questions in our final segment. 10 Days in the Valley will premiere October 1st on ABC. We're back with Malcolm-Jamal Warner. He's the Emmy-nominated, Grammy-winning actor, director, musician, and poet. And 10 Days in the Valley will premiere October 1st on ABC. You played Dr. John Prentice in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, the famous Sidney Poitier, Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn movie, which I never knew was a play. You played it in Washington and Boston.
Yes.
Does it follow the film?
Yes, very much so. There are, I think one of the fortunate things that we had in being able to do it as a play in 2013-14 is that we had a little bit more room to be emotional. You know, during the time when they shot the film, you know, the racial climate was, you know, was so high. There were only you could only say but so much about the racial tension. Dr. John Prentice could only have but so much of an emotional arc. Whereas having the freedom to do it on stage and to be doing it, you know, so many years later, just gave us a little bit more room to tell more truths.
Did you like the film?
Yeah.
Stanley Kramer.
Yes. Yes.
Story still relevant?
Very much so. And what was really interesting about you know, people would come to the show, and even though the story itself was about race relations, people were able to, the message transcended race. You know, when we would have these discussions afterwards, people would say, well, you could have this same storyline and it be about a same-sex couple. Or it could be, you know, a Muslim bringing home a Jew.
Rich person, poor person.
Rich person, poor person, yeah.
You're named after Malcolm X.
Malcolm X and Ahmad Jamal.
Wow.
Yeah. My dad set me up.
Boy, did he. We have a couple of social media questions. Jack Succinct, how was it working with Eddie Griffin?
Challenging at best. And I'm sure he would say the same thing.
Tall Drink of Slaughter, did you get to keep Denise Gordon's...
The Gordon Gartrell.
Gartrell.
Yeah. No, that shirt is actually, I think it's in the Smithsonian, actually.
Really?
I think so.
Mike Healy, would you ever consider reprising the role of Theo Huxtable? And where do you see Theo in today's world? That's a good question.
That's a good... I don't see myself reprising that role.
You're a little old.
Yeah, you know. But no, but Theo would probably be around the same age. I'm sure Theo would have his own family by now, and he would have wound up being a...
what?
A psychologist, probably.
Yeah, professional, definitely.
Yeah. Yes.
Michelle Rangel, do you view yourself successfly? Would you want to have your own sitcom?
Yes, I could go back to having my own sitcom. It's taken me a while. It's taken me into my adult life to really respect the sitcom genre in a way that I didn't so much growing up. Because growing up, you know, I think on the scale of things, people look at sitcom as easy. And I think just growing up and watching some people do sitcom and not necessarily, you know, very talented actors not do so well in the sitcom, it gave me another respect and appreciation for, you know, what that genre is as an actor.
It's hard work.
It really is. It's a great schedule, but it's hard work.
Would you do another family comedy?
I would definitely do another family comedy. I have a different perspective on family now.
Yeah. You've said that music might be the art that's closest to your heart.
Yes.
Well, tell me about the album.
This last record I put out, Selfless, you know, I put that record out in a time when I was on hiatus from relationships, dating, and was really needed to take some time for myself to kind of get some clarity on some things, how I see life, how I want to live my life. You know, looked at all of my relationships and, you know, the common denominator and why they didn't work out, you know, being me. I took time to take stock. And that record, Selfless, is a reflection of that, because I decided that I did not want to go back into another relationship until I was ready to give selflessly.
How'd you meet the wife?
Through a mutual friend, and then again at Whole Foods.
Well, at Whole Foods, now Amazon. Why did you name the band Miles Long?
Miles Long was really a description of my musical journey. You know, I've come a long way, but I still have a long way to go.
Great pleasure.
Hey.
My pleasure,
Good
man.
to see you again, Larry.
Thanks to my guest, Malcolm-Jamal Warner. And remember, 10 Days in the Valley premieres October 1st on ABC, and I can't wait to see it. And you can always find me on Twitter at King's Things. I'll see you next time.